Hey!
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WPwatercooler episode number 253. Today's topic is WooConf 2017, the recap show.
Yeah,
Let's go around the room real quick. Get everyone introduced. Aviva, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, I'm Aviva. I'm the lead for WooConf and the Woo Marketplace at Automatic.
Awesome. Good to have you on. How about you, Bob?
I'm Bob WP, a blogger, podcaster, also co-organizer of Seattle WooCommerce Meetup.
Awesome, man. Good to have you on as well. How about you, George?
Hi, my name is George. I build Jetpack at Automatic and do other random shiny things. If anyone's coming to WordCamp tomorrow, find me there.
Awesome, man. Good to have you. How about you, Patrick?
Hey everyone, I'm Patrick. I help people build online stores, and recently I helped basically help pick all the content for WooConf.
Awesome, man. It's good to have you. Say, how about you? Did you buy any domain names yet?
No, I am Say Reed, and I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress at Say Reed Media on all the things. Woo!
Sweet. Steve, how about you?
I am Steve Zehngut. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress Meetup.
I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter, and my website is jasontucker.blog. And we do some shows here on WPwatercooler. Feel free to take a look at WPwatercooler.com/subscribe, where you can find all the information over there. All right, let's talk about a little about WooConf. That happened over near you, Bob, right?
Right. Actually, for once in our lives, we got something up in the corner of this country. So that was kind of cool. So I could actually drive, although it's still 3.5 hours away from me.
Hey man, closer to you than me. So how was that? I mean, you guys have had
How was it?
No, how was it? I mean, to actually have something up in your neck of the woods.
Oh, it was great. It was like I mean, Seattle is high tech, but it's just the events are very limited up here as far as, beyond WordCamp. So yeah, it was really cool to have it. And I think, we were dry all summer into the fall, hardly any rain. And then everybody came for WooConf.
Oh, I thought you meant dry, meaning no liquor.
Yeah, well, yeah. And, well, that too, Then WooConf happened, the booze came out and the rain came out. So.
That's good.
No, it was a good time. Yeah. For sure.
And you, Bob, you interviewed somebody. Who was it?
Todd.
About users. I was so happy.
Yeah, it was lead of WooCommerce. So that was fun. I enjoyed it. I always enjoy the people. I mean, the sessions were awesome. The ones I went to. I'm sure I'll catch up on some. But I think thing I love about WooConf is everybody from around the country. It's so one. And I mean, I met people from everywhere, and that's always a great connection. And I was amongst all my peer of developers, which, developers, they were wondering what I was doing there. But since it was a little bit content driven towards developers, it was interesting for me since I'm about as far away from being a developer as possible. So dropping in on conversations and stuff was good. Hearing people talk about stuff that I didn't understand, but I did learn some stuff.
So I just want to say, Bob, I think, yes, people all around the country, but also people all around the world, right? Like
I meant all around
Germany,
the world. I'm sorry. That's exactly
South
what
Africa,
I meant.
and Europe, and all over the States.
Everywhere. I met people that knew me that I didn't know, so I got to know them better. And it was good. I exactly meant all around the world, not the country. Yeah.
So you were saying about the audience, and that was actually something I wanted to ask you guys about, because I find that that's something that I think WordCamps struggle with is really who's coming to this. And Patrick, you're saying you chose the content. So do you guys have, for example, stats from previous Woo conferences about, who's self-identifying as developer, that type of thing that you're making those decisions off of? Or how are you determining who that audience is that you're talking to?
So that was partly my decision, also Aviva and some of the other people on the organizing team. But it was last year we did kind of half store owners and half developers, and it was great. And I was very happy with last year, but this year we wanted to do excellent. And so we kind of just picked one of those two, and we think developers is the thing that we can help out the most. Store owners can get help at WordCamps and other places. So we focused on developers because we thought we could do the best job there.
I would also say that store owners don't know about Woo Conference. Like, they don't know that it's happening in the same way that Woo developers do. Do you think that's true?
I think it was definitely a switch this year. Like definitely the attendees at WooConf 2016 were more on the store owner side, and you could tell from, we actually don't have great stats on it, but you could tell from the people that you talked to. And we saw a pretty meaningful switch by like focusing on developers. More developers came out, which is what we wanted to do. And for this year, 3/4 of the attendees were people who build stores, and half were people who build extensions.
I'm muted. You talked about extensions, right? Wasn't that what your talk was about? In the marketplace?
Yeah, so that's the big project that I've been working on this year, is opening up the Woo marketplace. And this was kind of like the first time that we sort of officially, publicly talked about it. Yeah.
So tell us about it. Yeah. I was like, no. I was like, no. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, like, we haven't been open to new extensions for a sort of mysterious amount of time, but like in the realm of years. And we wanted to start opening it back up. So we spent the first half of this year kind of like changing the dynamics of the marketplace. So letting developers do support themselves as opposed to us doing it. Letting developers handle their own product pages, their own documentation, and giving them higher commissions. And now we're going to open the doors to existing developers in November and to the world in 2018.
Nice.
Is that kind of that shift sort of modeling off of more like the Envato kind of thing where they're managing their own support?
Said the E word. You said the E word.
Hey, we're talking about marketplaces. Yeah.
What's the matter with you?
So that you guys, that's exciting because that brings us out of Code Canyon back into the home of the free and the brave. Just made that up. That's good. I like that.
That's
someone should copyright that.
That's exactly the thinking, is kind of like going after that model, but hopefully doing it better, higher quality stuff, and a better experience for developers.
So what about pricing? Because the marketplace has typically been, $79, whatever, and you guys have recently introduced bundles, which are super fun. But if developers have more of a say, like what if someone's coming in and they're like, this is, more expensive, like who's managing the pricing? And what's the plan for that?
So far, it's been a conversation between us and the developers. So we make recommendations based on what we see be successful across the marketplace and sort of the averages. But they also have a say in saying, like, we've tested this actually, and we see that it really, really think it should be at that point. And for the most part, like, they know what they're doing, and we want to give them the tools to do what they do well. Yeah.
That's exciting. Is there going to be what is the kind of sense on the scene about how people who've been doing their own stores and selling their own plugins from, just their own sites versus the marketplace? Do you think they'll be coming into both? Kind of like dual availability, or?
So right now, the marketplace is still exclusive. So if you sell on WooCommerce.com, you can't sell that product anywhere else. And when I looked at, we did a bit of research on our Woo tracker data to look at, like, okay, where do people actually buy extensions? Like the things that are actually installed on people's sites, where do they typically come from? And of the top, stat is like really specific. Of the top 100 extensions installed on stores, 72% of installs for paid extensions came from the marketplace. So we think, like, if you want people to buy your extension, we're the best place to do that.
Yeah, and I can chime in there because I'm on the other side of things as far as the affiliate marketing. So I'm an affiliate of WooCommerce and affiliate of a lot of other extensions, and I know from a fact that most of the sales come through WooCommerce versus individual sites and stuff. And I think it's a trust factor. I think people just feel more confident going to WooCommerce.com to buy. So
it's also
I see that all the time.
It's also an updating factor, like it being a component of that, like that takes the pain away in terms of updating, basically. It's what I have more questions, so I can just
keep going. You're doing great.
I was going to ask about Rand Fishkins. That was I felt like that was kind of a get in a way that you guys,
I felt that too. I'm a huge Rand fangirl.
Yeah,
we tried to do it in Seattle. I was like,
I'm a Moe's fan.
Can we make that happen? Yeah.
Yeah, it was really amazing. One of the people at Woo he lives in the same neighborhood as him. So as he walks his dog, he sees Rand and his wife. And we're like, hey, can you make an introduction? Just emailed, said he'd come. It was awesome.
That's great.
he got some of the best ratings out of all the speakers. I think because I think he does like the same type of talk over and over again. So he's probably done something similar to this talk, I don't know, a half dozen times this year already. So he's just so polished. He's so funny. He's so articulate. He had like 100-something slides for his 50-minute talk. So he's just like zipping through them. He was awesome.
Yeah, love the Max slides. That's my favorite. Fast slides. Slow slides are the worst. So did he talk generally about SEO, or did he hit on anything that was like product based specifically, or was it just more like? It was mostly like SEO in general, like what's happening. So we talked about like how Google's getting a lot better at voice recognition, and also like my favorite thing that I had no idea was he talked about people can type in like famous circle of stones in England, and Google knows like to send you to the this is what happens on live. Thank you. This is what happens on a live podcast. The words leave your brain. But it knows to send you to Stonehenge, and so he talks about how it's getting so smart you don't need to focus on like clickbaity techniques to get people to your site.
Yep.
Great. So nobody will learn anything in the future.
I mean, everyone already asked Google. I mean, that's already a thing. So yeah. I'm a huge fan of just SEO in general. But so anything that like, anyway, we don't need to go off on an SEO tangent because we'll just bring that right back.
You can optimize stuff more for users than for machines. Make your content something that makes sense to your users, so they'll actually get more use out of it.
That's
and
crazy
let the
talk.
machines figure it out.
Yeah.
No, I mean that's Google's whole thing. I mean that's really their approach to SEO. They're like, stop SEOing, let us do it. Like, that's what they've been saying.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
don't be like massage therapist in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, massage therapy, and back massage Lancaster, Pennsylvania, among the Amish Lancaster, Pennsylvania therapy. As your page title.
That was really 2015, George.
If you want to learn more, watch *Halt and Catch Fire* season 5.
What did you even just say?
I have no idea what that is.
You guys don't watch *Halt and Catch Fire*? You're not true geeks. I'm sorry.
I do.
I'm not. You're right. I'm maybe more on the nerd side.
All right.
Anyway, what about enterprise? David Locke talked about that. What happened with that?
Yeah, we had a lot
of talk.
David Lucky?
Yeah.
Lucky.
Yeah, so the year started with Patrick doing a bunch of like interviews to see what people wanted to hear from us, and the topic sort of overwhelmingly was scaling. People want to understand scaling, so we had 4 or 5 talks about some version of scaling or enterprise or something in that realm, including David and Zach Stepek and other folks.
And so one of the things I liked about, so we had like most of the, let's say half the content was like in the main track. And this is like, you want to know this stuff. And then the other half was in these breakout sessions, and you could just choose which ones that you wanted to go to. And David Lockie's talk, which was, I don't remember the exact title, but e-commerce for giant agencies for enterprise, was in one of those breakout sessions, and it got some really good reviews.
I like e-commerce.
Man, there's a lot of stuff coming.
That's my next talk.
There's a lot of stuff coming in WooCommerce Core for scaling, including moving orders to its own table instead of relying so much on post meta.
That's exciting.
There's an open issue on that. They've been working towards it for a while. There's some progress they're making towards it. But once that hits, then there's going to be a lot more availability on large-scale scaling.
Pop the cap off. What?
Chris Lemma released a plugin for WooCommerce that does some migration, a different parallel path in that way now for their new Liquid Web hosted offering.
Yeah. So Zach Stepek was the person who talked about that. He had a whole 50-minute slot. So if you, when the videos are released, is that soon, Aviva?
Today or Monday, yeah.
Today, so in the next couple of days, when the videos are released, watch Zach Stepek's talk. It's 50 minutes, all about scaling. He mentions the order tables. I forgot what it's called. But he mentions that in his talk, and it's all about going insanely fast, and it's super cool. He did 2 live demos on stage, which I'm responsible for content, so I'm like, oh my god,
no live demos.
More than one?
Never.
Just one live demo, please. You're like having like
you take your life in your hands.
It all worked out, but it was terrifying.
So you're better than Apple, is what you're saying? Sorry.
Basically, yes.
Apple.
So you didn't go up on stage and say, "Get off my Wi-Fi," so I could actually do my demo, or that didn't happen?
I think I did ask him to bring. He had redundant. He had like a MiFi device, so we had planned for that contingency in case everyone was bit torrenting.
What about I was interested in a lot of the international, I think that was one of the scaling talks. It was talking about like international e-commerce. Maybe that wasn't specifically scaling, but when I think about international e-commerce, I think about scaling. Did you guys, what about that one? It was with, I have notes, I really do. Jimmy Rosen?
Yeah. Yeah, he, so sadly, because I was running around, I didn't get to see many of the talk because I was just running to make sure everyone was in the right place. I think people really liked it. Aviva, do you talk to more of the people in that room?
I didn't see that particular talk actually.
I wouldn't know what.
Of course.
And I wouldn't know what they're talking about half the time. So I am. But I was. Yes.
That was just more about international, like dealing with all of the different, like I think I'm assuming it was dealing with things like different taxes.
Yeah.
And all of that kind of the considerations that come with that.
Yeah.
Also managing different currencies and different languages,
right.
And managing all the translations of your content.
I mean, we could also and international SEO, which is like next level.
Oh Lord.
Fun times. Yeah. Let's get cry.
So where's WooConf going forward? Is there any plans for next year or like spinning it off to like?
I have more questions. You can't like wrap it up.
No, I'm not wrapping it up. I just wanted to know. I mean, is there going to be a fork of like a WooConf for store owners versus a WooConf for developers, or how are we feeling on that?
So we haven't actually like talked in detail. I can tell you like my personal opinion about what we should do. We don't know where it'll be. I'm just going to say that. And I think the developer focus worked really well this year. I mean, we even saw it like when we had breakout sessions, like the more technical, more developer focused ones were far fuller than the other ones. So I think that's kind of what our audience is looking for. And that's probably where we're going to keep going. And we've talked about different ways to make WooConf like more accessible. Like we had watch parties this year, which were basically like meetups organized around WooConf, watching the live stream. We're probably going to do more of that kind of stuff to make it more accessible, especially internationally. Like we're not in a place where we can resource multiple WooConfs. But it's like one of the top asked questions is, can we have this in Europe? Can we have this in Asia? So that's kind of our answer to that.
Didn't the guy from WP Sessions speak? Isn't he the 24? Isn't that the 24-hour online WooCommerce thing, or not WooCommerce? Woo blah word. The 24-hour one. The 24-hour word. Isn't that what that is?
The 24-hour. The 24-hour WordPress thing. That is
Word Sesh or something.
Word Sesh. Yeah.
Oh, that's not the same thing as WP Sessions.
No. Too many sessions.
So like you guys stop. See, sessions is just sesh in my head, so it's like the same word. You got a sesh. Was there anything on shipping? That's what I really wanted to talk about, not the other stuff that I wanted to talk about.
There wasn't anything specifically on shipping. So like we didn't have many like, here's how you do this, because I think a lot of our developer audience already knows that. However, there were like, I'm reading through all the speaker feedback right now, and there are some comments on some talks like, hey, I'd like this talk, but like a beginner version. So that might be something we look into next year.
Yeah, and I think with shipping and taxes, I mean, you got your vendors there, your sponsors, which are great for questions, but there's so many variables. And I think even when you were talking about that the whole conference is more developer, that's the direction. I mean, in a perfect world, we'd love to have all these store owners there, but I don't think they're going to take the time. They're just not going to show up. I mean,
no, they already have to go to the Mind Body conference.
Yeah.
What about, I'm just asking all my pet questions about WooCommerce right now. Was there anything, or are there any plans, do you know, in the marketplace or whatnot for POS, not POS integration, like with Lightspeed, but like, for example, WooCommerce POS.
What's the POS?
Point of sale.
A point of sale system.
Yeah, so
for
basically,
those listening and following along at home.
Right, so basically you can have a back end of your WordPress site loaded up on an iPad, add things to a cart, and you like swipe a card and check things out that way, all through the web interface in a browser.
Yeah, there is a plugin for that called you probably know. I can't tell if you're nodding sarcastically or like not, Patrick.
No, it was.
Was that a real question?
Questions designed for beginners. You know, just in case they didn't know.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I appreciate that. That's good for all our people. Was there anything about that?
A lot of it.
So no, we don't have an explicit plan to make an official WooCommerce POS, but I think I tried to talk a lot about where I think the opportunities are for new extensions, and I think that's a big one. There's only 2 POS solutions on WooCommerce.com right now, and there are many more out there in the wild that people use a lot. So I would love to see people submit those.
And that's really the main factor differing between WooCommerce as a complete solution for shops versus something like Shopify or whatnot, because that's really the key element, translating from all online to also in person, that I think is the only missing element.
Yeah, I'll also be very interested to see where that goes by way of, I mean, I know the mobile team is going to be working on a WooCommerce apps for mobile devices for shop owners to see what's going on their sites.
Oh, great.
I'm not sure exactly what the scope of that is going to be. Is it going to be like managing inventory and updating stuff, or is it just like getting status from the store?
Like Google Analytics, is that?
Close tabs on that.
Yeah, it's super early days. I don't know exactly what the status is of it either. My understanding is that it's more about managing your store, but that's still like a very broad array of things that could mean.
A big word.
So
Yeah.
I have a wish list. I have one item that you should pass on to the team that they'll just make a dollar sound, like a cha-ching, like a cash register.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we'll do that.
That's like MVP.
Or old ICQ sounds.
On the app,
So like one of my favorite WooConf talks was from 2016 when Bryce basically did that. He used the WooCommerce API to make it so like when you got a sale, like your lights would turn on and off, and then a drone would fly across your living room.
No, Aviva, it needs to say, ring the bell.
And Aviva and Patrick, I don't know if you guys know, from just talking to the developers, the ones that would talk to me would
And not hide it.
Yeah, guys go, oh God, here's Bob. You know. And anyway, they would. I saw a lot more agency developers versus plugin and extension developers. There was that pretty much what I was seeing, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have a sense that it's sort of like people start on the agency level and then eventually sort of like decide to create a plugin or see that like they're using a plugin they've created over and over again. But certainly the like agency store builder side is a bigger audience, and the extension side is sort of a subset.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like especially just because it's been kind of quiet, so there hasn't been a lot of intentional, and that's pretty much been since Automatic bought. WooCommerce, it's been pretty much like, stop, we're going to figure this out, sort this out.
Collaborate and listen.
I know, I wanted to say that too.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
It's like a compulsion.
I think there's been a lot of changes over the last couple of years in terms of, I mean, when the recession really hit hard in 2007, a lot of agencies laid a lot of people off. And so a lot of folks were going more independent and freelancer, building up their skills. And as the economy's been picking up over the last decade or so, there's been more of like pulling all these folks that were sent off to go polish up their skills and learn more like time management stuff, absorbing them back into the larger agencies again. So it's very interesting to see like the diaspora and then like everyone coming back together to the larger groups and how that's going to repeat as a cycle going forward.
Diaspora, like that's awesome.
Kind of, honestly.
We're spread out in all these crazy places and then coming together. I like that.
Tech kind of is a cottage industry with everyone that can just work from home and coffee shops and whatnot instead of be clustered in the big cities.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cool things about our realm of developers who are selling on the marketplace is that they really, really run the gamut from like companies, right? Like Skyverge is a company, right? Very sort of formal, to like Somewhere Warm, which is Manos, and I think he's hired another person. He just like makes a few really, really good plugins and lives his life, right? And I love seeing that variety.
That's exciting. I think that is right there, the strength of the WordPress community, right? Like that's it, because you've got the kind of like, I was going to call it low end. That's not what it is in my mind, but like the fabric of it, that's foundation. And then you have the bigger scale and that everyone working together and being at the WooConf together and learning together.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Well, that was a really cool part of Becca Rice's talk for me. Is she talked about how because they've developed for both open source projects and closed systems like Shopify, and the thing I heard from her talk was her being like, sometimes I see a bug and I can't fix it. I have the skills and I don't have the access to fix it, right? And I think that's just the coolest thing about WordPress and Woo is you can do it. You can participate.
And I actually, that's the limit that a lot of clients that I've had on those, Shopify, Squarespace, all that, they'll hit that limit pretty quickly because if they're doing well and they're doing that, and then they're like, they get to that box and then they're like, wait, I can't do that, what I'm trying to do. And, I really argue in that same kind of way with the open source versus the, the walled garden, is that you can continue to grow without hopping systems. And that is why I start everyone, even the people who aren't like super tech savvy, I start them all on WordPress, and they can grow to whatever, and they can grow in any direction. They can add WooCommerce, and WooCommerce being free, they can add it and then not pay for everything right away, and they can scale as they scale. It's really
what I found interesting too was talking to a lot of these developers. A lot of them are trying to push more towards creating content on their sites. They're actually, a lot of them would say, oh, I'm ashamed, I don't hardly blog, and no big deal. But
Steve doesn't know anything about that.
I wasn't looking at Steve. I was, but you couldn't tell.
Every group needs a scapegoat. It's cool.
Yeah. No, but really, it was a lot more of them are really, they're very determined. In fact, I was talking to a lot of them because I wanted to have them on my podcast, and they were like right at it. They said, yeah, I'd love to get on there because they're looking at avenues to do that. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that goes.
I think that that's a trend in general because, as we were talking about at the beginning, it turns out people who've been blogging over the last 2 years are seeing the major results of those, kind of older blogs coming around, and people who were like, oh yeah, screw blogging 2 years ago are now like, whoops, I should have been blogging this whole time. So I think it's like the SEO, what is that? The SEO is nothing is coming for you. It's like, you did something like that.
What is that?
I don't know. I was mixing metaphors. I brought the Neverland ending story into it. What were your favorite? You said Becca, was she your favorite talk?
Probably, yeah. It's the one I tweeted about the most. It was really cool to see her talk. I really liked Todd's talk. I mean, he's my boss, but also I just genuinely like the talk. Because we don't usually share big numbers about WooCommerce. I think there's a lot of the data isn't perfect and we're all engineers, so we'd really, really like it to be perfect. But just being able to start saying there are $10 billion of commerce that go through Woo stores. That's awesome. It lit me up. I felt so happy about that.
So the one thing I loved about Todd's talk, I'm still looking through all the feedback, is people said words like he was humble and honest, and I think that's a really hard thing to do at a conference, is to set the tone, and here's what we're going to talk about, and here's what we've done, and we're cool, but you still need to be humble and honest. And I'm really impressed that he was able to convey that, and I'm really happy.
He was talking about both the past year and the coming up year. So we all pretty much, for the most part, know the stuff that's been happening, and we've been talking about that. So what did he talk about that's on the horizon?
Yeah, a lot of stuff that we've talked about just now. He announced the marketplace and stole my thunder a little bit. And he stole 2 slides. I was like, thanks, dude.
Literally stole, or just had similar slides?
No, I sent him my presentation for feedback, and he just copied 2 of them. All right.
That's actually a compliment, right?
Yeah.
I guess,
You're really good slides.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right?
Unless you're actually copying it, right?
Oh, right.
It's not plagiarism. No, just kidding, Todd. You don't even know.
Great artist steal. Come on.
Yeah. Anyway,
so he talked about
the marketplace.
He talked about the mobile app. A lot of what we've been talking about this year, that's a continued focus, is just getting much more stable so that people aren't afraid to update. And that's something, especially since the 3.0 release, that's been the big kind of drumbeat around the Woo halls. Metaphorical Woo halls. Yes.
Echoing through the tubes.
Yes, exactly.
I'm excited about it. Woo!
Sweet. Well, thank you all for coming on the show today. I want to say my favorite part about WooConf, and I wasn't there, but I saw a bunch of pictures of it, were they had minifigs, and this is my minifig for my WordPress minifig guy. But I love the fact that there was minifigs that were customized for the speaker, which I think is just an awesome idea. I mean, how cool is that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at that.
Mine, you'll notice I have a little bit more hair than that, but I still love it.
That's awesome.
They're from a Woo store in South Africa. So yeah, I'm a big
sweet. Well, make sure you give us a link to it. We'd love to link out to it. So thank you very much for being on the show. We really appreciate it. Make sure you go over to our website at WPwatercooler.com/subscribe, where you can find all the information on how you can subscribe to this show as well as the other shows that are in the network. You have a good day. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.